Merry Christmas, everyone. Warmest wishes to you and your loved ones on this special day. I am Nifemi Ogutoye, your host for this Christmas edition of This Morning. What a year it's been. I hope you'll find time this season to unwind and celebrate, hoping that you're able to make merry within your means and create beautiful memories with friends and family. Christmas is a time for hope, love, and reflection. A promise from God that has been hanging for thousands of years was fulfilled with the virgin birth that has now become the Christmas that we all talk about. On the show today, we are turning our attention, taking a deeper look to Mr. President's Christmas message. And we'll also probably touch on some of the things he said during the media chat earlier. Interestingly, Mr. President has been talking about Nigerians keeping faith and keeping hope alive, irrespective of the current situation. In his Christmas message, President Bola Tinubu is assuring Nigerians that the country is on a promising trajectory of restoration and progress, emphasizing that a brighter future lies ahead the nation. Delivering his Christmas message to citizens in a statement, the president asked Nigerians to believe in a prosperous Nigeria as they celebrate the season of goodwill and unity. He called on citizens to show compassion to those in need, emphasizing that kindness transcends financial capacity and can be extended through simple gestures like a smile or words of encouragement. The president highlighted the significance of Christmas as a symbol of divine prophecy and triumph of love, peace, and unity. All right, that's what we're talking about this morning. I'm hoping that we can also take as many calls as possible today so we can hear from more of our viewers on Christmas Day. Joining me are two distinguished guests, Dr. Jay Capelli is policy development analyst. He joins us live from Abuja. Also joining me is Dr. Oludare Maridoti, convener of the Social Rehabilitation, Grace and Support Initiative, all the way from the United States. Merry Christmas, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning.
In the studio and to your lovely teeming audience.
Indeed. Dr. Maridoti, I'm a little bit curious. How's the Christmas vibe in the U.S. this year in anticipation of a second Trump presidency? You may have to unmute yourself. I can't hear you from here. Okay, they say U.S. is too far. Dr. Epele, let's begin in Nigeria. How's Christmas in Abuja this year?
It's quiet. It is peaceful. People, those who couldn't travel, are in their houses. And those who can afford to go to parks and, hotels to have either breakfast or lunch, either already doing that or on their way to doing that. It's relatively peaceful, not too much of celebratory moments, but then it's something remarkable. And I think both the Christmas message from the president and the media chat injected some hope and fuel some good understanding of the situation. I think for me, the media chat was the best president's interview so far. And we can delve into that in the course of your program, but great outing for him.
Honestly, we haven't had much of that. It's perhaps the first media chat he's going to have in this presidency. So you can't say the best if there are no comparison. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, I was going through, if you go through the trajectories of interviews he has had in the past,
Okay.
stand-up interviews, speech giving, and all that. I think this turned out to be the very best.
We'll talk about that shortly. Dr. Mari Dotti, I want to be sure that you can hear me and that you are
Yes, I
there.
can hear you anytime.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. My network.
Merry Christmas to you. Do you find that Christmas is celebrated differently in the US compared to Nigeria? Are there any cultural nuances that you've noticed?
I mean, technically, we imbibe the Christmas culture from the West, so we are trying our best to be similar. With the age of the internet, everybody's been doing it about the same way. Even in Nigeria, they put gifts underneath the Christmas tree. I didn't know that when I was a 7-year-old. I didn't know about the, Santa drinking milk and eating cookies or whatever. So yeah, it's been fun, but I know that for Nigerians, things are a little bit hard. There's a lot of kids who right now are not getting Christmas gifts because the economic situation is a little bit dire. So that's why, I think the president's message of, kind gestures that transcends, financial capacity or capability is very, very germane to this period because while we may not have, we can make each other happy by just being kind to one another. So yeah, that's like my own Christmas message that I want to give Nigerians that let us, continue the cycle of kindness and we will all make ourselves and our lives better.
And I'm hoping that in the course of this conversation, we can talk about that more practically because it sounds, it sounds so good when it's spoken, but it's a little bit more difficult when you're drowning in your own needs and in your own expectations, and you don't have so much means to celebrate Christmas. And you're also now carrying the burden of being of help to others. But Dr. Pele, let's begin with the recent tragic events in Ibadan, Okija, and Abuja, which featured prominently in Mr. President's Christmas message. I know government mainly blamed poor planning of the organizers for the tragedy, but is this also turning our attention to deeper things we really aren't paying attention to?
Exactly. I think that's a very brilliant question and a scenario that you have painted. As much as I blame the organizers for not being circumspect, not taking into consideration proper organizational methods and ensuring that they have adequate security, I would largely blame it on the situation in the country. The people are hungry. And when you want to gather hungry people, sometimes it brings out the anger in them and it becomes very dangerous. So generally speaking, it's not much of the organizers not being able to, organize and coordinate. But the situation in the country, when you show that you want to give things to people, definitely when there is a dire need for those things, it will create anarchy, it will create chaos. People will rush at whatever you want to present to them. That is the major problem, and so whatever you present is never enough. And that's why individuals like me, the things that I want to do, I'm going to my community and I'm going to be doing cash transfer to the elderly. And I had to start from the beginning to get data. I have data of over 250 elderly persons with disability and in their location, their demography, every aspect of information and I need to bring about a peaceful intervention. I have it in my hand. And then again, sometimes when you are in the field as a social worker, you have to read the pulse of the environment and make a change. So I had to re-strategize. Instead of congregating people, I'm going to be going to their homes and making the transfers that I have, making sure I'm giving it to the right person, ensuring that they are the funds will go to the people that needs it, and not necessarily an aged person that have very well-to-do sons and daughters. So, it calls for re-strategization. There's a need for us to recalibrate and see what works and discard what does not work. You can't venture into trying to make intervention for people and it turns around to be disastrous. So what happened in Ibadan was very unfortunate, and you can attribute some element of it to poor planning. However, the problem is that the people never envisaged that they are going to get such a surge of people compared to what they had. So that's the situation. The economic situation in the country further heightened the current situation that we have. And I'm glad that the president owned up and talked about it. The aspect I didn't like was for him to wholly blame it on poor organizations by the organizers. That's not absolutely holistic. The situation in the country aggravated that.
I agree with you that it's about time we take the help to the people and not necessarily have them gather together in a place to receive the help. But Dr. Maridoti,
oftentimes,
yes,
just to complete my thought, oftentimes the problem with us providing intervention, we want to do photo ops.
Indeed.
We want to capture and show that this is what we're doing. Put it on social media. That's not the essence. The essence is the people. As long as the people gets the intervention, it doesn't matter the accolade that comes with it. And I think everyone who is providing this needed palliatives needs to do a rethink and re-strategize and touch the lives of the people without creating avenue for taking the lives of the people.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It challenges the very essence of why we are doing good. And whether it's for the people to see or the intention is sincere. Dr. Maridoti, some have erroneously mentioned that these stampedes are unprecedented. There are quite a number of them we have covered over the years, including the Ilorin Salah stampede in 2013. There was a stampede in Abuja 4 years ago, in Adamawa and Kogi, Rivers, quite a number of other stampedes that have been recorded over the recent years. Help us understand how interventions are slightly different where you live. Have there been cases of stampedes also in the U.S.? What do you think went wrong, and how can we fix it?
Yeah, thank you very much. We definitely the economic situation in Nigeria is dire, but it's not like Nigerians just became poor. So, like you said, if you look back into history, there have been histories of stampede even at religious events and all of that. But the difference is that, they are doing a giveaway a lot of people that they couldn't anticipate because there were no criteria for people who were supposed to come, I believe. Unlike, if you say you want to give it to like the elderly or whatever, it's just the elderly coming there. This was like everybody free for all. And then there was also a lot of responsibility on the community level because if you are having a giveaway, the police in that region will know because they know they have to, maintain public safety. That is the job of the police, and they are going to be there telling people, if you're having even a concert event, they redirect traffic and all of that just to create avenue for people, So there should definitely be an SOP that anybody that wants to do a giveaway that would involve maybe more than 50 people or something would have to follow in terms of notifying the police and crowd control that needed to have been put in place before this whole situation happened. But I would definitely agree that it is easy to blame the organizers, right? But the organizers lack the wherewithal to keep the public safe in that scenario. People are going to come there, and if the community, the policemen are not involved, then there is going to be stuff like this. Also, there's also a cultural element in it whereby Nigerians are not used to staying in line, and that must not be, overridden. But I think the most important thing is the fact that the city, the community, the police in that region needed to have been involved by default. Even yes, the people were supposed to probably notify them, but by default, when you see people congregating in such place, because you can always anticipate that when you put too many people in a tiny place, that there's going to be a tendency of stampede. We had one in Korea, like I think about 4 years ago, when some youth went to, to club. There was a stampede that occurred at, I think, A$AP Rocky's concert in Houston, I think in 2022. So these things are going to happen when people congregate in a place. It is the responsibility of the law enforcement agencies to have been there, to have managed the people, not of the organizer. So I don't think there is so much blame that we can put on the organizer. So even though, yes, maybe they could have had a lot more system or structure in terms of how they wanted to give out the whatever they have to give out. But I have always said this about intervention, that you can always use technology to make it easy. The government can put subsidy on the foods that are in the market and let people buy it at a cheaper rate. In that way, nobody is congregating, because it is disseminated across all markets. It is the same Iyaloja that is selling you rice, that is selling you that same rice, as opposed to giving it to a few people that want to use it, like that said at the time, like as a photo op, put on social media, so that nobody knows. You just know that the rice that you're supposed to buy for 20,000, you're now buying it for 10,000 or 5,000, and that will really, really go a long way. And if with technology, you can bring accountability. People will demand for it, like they have in the United States, where they have women, infant, and children program, where you have a card and you take it to Walmart. You just pick, and then once you swipe your card, the card pays for the food that you have bought. So you can have those things whereby people would, and to be at the local government level, not at the central government level. So yeah, so these are things that they can really use to, because Nigerians definitely need some support during this period.
Dr. Pele, the organizers in Ibadan have now been remanded in correctional custody till I think the 13th of January. That include the Queen and the principal of the school in question, as well as the proprietor of the radio station through which this program was publicized. How do you think Nigerians can balance the need for accountability with the need for healing and unity in the aftermath of tragic events like this? In Ibadan, for instance, we saw videos of women, protesting the release of one of the organizers.
It's just unfortunate, but it's also important for us to underpin this kind of narrative that sometimes can be discouraging to anyone who have a kind heart, anyone that wants to reach out to people, especially in these hostile times. It's important to please encourage everyone watching who wants to do one thing or the other, so please don't be deterred by what you have heard or what has happened. As much as I agree that people should be held accountable, we need to also be very circumspect to ensure that we're not holding the wrong people for the wrong reason. I think the people who went about organizing this charity event in Ibadan, they meant well. Unfortunately, it turned out the way it turned out. I don't think they had gone there to create a scene where people would die. It was not anticipated in any way. And when they have been subjected to this kind of treatment and it's filtered out, it's a way of discouraging others who would have ventured into it, So, however, let the law take its course. But I think for anyone watching, don't look at this as a reason to hold back your kindness. It's important for me to share my thoughts on how I'm going about my own interventions with my friends. I think it will help others, although some of them needs to begin in earnest. For instance, I'm aware of the people that I'm going to meet. By data science, I've collected their names, where they live, their age. In my data, I have about 5 people who are 100 years and above. I have about 25 people who are 90 years. I have about 100 people that are 80 years, and so on and so forth. So I don't expect that 100 years will come and congregate. I don't expect that in 90 years will come and congregate. I don't even want the 80 years to come and congregate. And so me and my team will design a system by which we will go to them, do whatever we want to do, whether there are cameras there or not. The important thing is touching the lives of the people that you want to reach. I think it's important that we be guided. We do a proper pre-planning and proper during event execution and even post-event, because you need to go back and say, how did I perform? What happened? You know, I mean, I'm providing the resources with some friends. It is obligated on me to go back and tell them how I dispensed their resources. It doesn't matter whether somebody provided a penny. Some of my friends who are supporting me have said, oh, no, we trust you. I said, no, that's not the way I work. You will get a report of my intervention. So what I'm saying, in essence, is we need to be careful so that we don't use the calamity that has happened, which I don't think that these individuals intend to do that. You know, if we keep harping it, keep asking for them to be penalized, it will discourage others who wants to be kind in this particular season. It's unfortunate. My heart goes out for the people that lost their children. It is very, very heartbreaking. However, my heart also goes out to the Queen, the owners of the radio station, and every other person across board that are suffering because of this lack of organization and what has ensued as a result. You know, don't forget, there are also some people who benefited from what was done. You understand? So, you know, it's unfortunate that this happened. I feel for the parents that have lost these children. You know, I wish it never happened, but let's be very careful so that we don't start discouraging people who wants to show kindness at this time. That kindness was needed.
Let us touch on other components of Mr. President's Christmas message. I think it was Dr. Maridoti that was talking about the component of mindfulness and compassion for those facing difficulties. Dr. Maridoti, in what ways can individuals and communities show kindness and support to this category of people this season? And can it adequately substitute government's primary responsibility of welfare to its citizenry?
No, definitely. We can't by ourselves substitute the government's duty of welfare, but we can do a lot. You know, I often ask this question that if you look back at your life and look at the problems you've had, what percentage of it was directly caused by the government? What percentage was caused by your neighbor? You know, just a smile, just a kind gesture, just by helping someone pick something that fell, you know, out of their pocket up. Those are things that can give us put us in a good frame of mind that will help us, you know, to go through this thing. You know, this whole issue of subsidy, palliative giving, and all, it is good, but that is not where you want to be. You want a situation where Nigerians can feed themselves. Now, we need to definitely boost production. And, you know, we're talking about the president media. I liked when, you know, I think when BKO asked about price control, and it was like, no, we need to supply the market and let the forces of demand and supply to control the prices and bring it down, that people who are ordering will not be able to order. We need to definitely improve our production of food. We need to control the security situation and make the people confident in the security of their farms so that they can go back. And we need to build a lot of infrastructure in terms of food preservation, because Nigeria loses a great percentage, maybe I think even more than 50% to post-harvest loss. And these things will take time. And that's why, in my own opinion, especially when it comes to hunger, and I've been saying this for a very long period of time, that we cannot say we are protecting our manufacturers at the expense of our people. The people cannot eat. So there is no need for Nigeria to have 70% import duty on flour or 55% on rice when Nigerians cannot eat. We cannot turn food, rice, to contraband that custom is seizing something that is supposed to help the supply in the market. Now, custom is going to seize that and starving the market of that supply. We shouldn't be doing things like this. Food production and food importation are not mutually exclusive. You can allow the volume to come in, and when your production becomes efficient, the importation will stop by itself because it will become non-profitable because your food will be cheaper. So we should let Nigerians to be able to eat. The president announced it during the hunger strike in August that they are going to allow food duty-free importation of food, but then they put a lot of a poison pill into it and say you have to have some investment in Nigeria before you can bring food. And Nigerians are suffering. Nigerians are starving. So since the president knows that the volume the forces of demand and supply will bring down the cost of food, he should let the volume of demand and supply start operating right now, while investing in the Nigerian farmers to produce food that when we now sufficiently feed ourselves and we now have overcapacity, we will now even be exporting food to all nations of the world. We have what it takes. We have the arable lands, we have the youth population, we have the technical know-how. Nigerians are smart, but these things that we are trying to do will take time. That time T is unknown. Nobody knows tomorrow. So, but right now, Nigerians have a pressing need of feeding, and we should keep letting them feed. So, Nigerians can do a lot of giveaway. I did a slimmer giveaway this year than I did last year because things are just more expensive. So, it is not going to cut it if we don't end the protectionism that is worsening this hunger right now. So, that is my own opinion about how the government can really, really help and how Nigerians can just be kind to one another. Don't, overcharge your neighbor. Don't be nasty to them. And just, we can all come together like the room, like the Yoruba people say, Oshishowo, let's gather together, form that camaraderie, and we can see each other through these difficult times.
Absolutely. Dr. Pele, they say everything rises and falls on leadership. And you were talking about the media chat earlier. It does seem that the presidency or Mr. President is quite aware about the impact his policies have had over the 18 months of his administration on the cost of living, the standard of living of Nigerians. But do you think he was able to send the right message out in his maiden media chat?
I think he did. And like I said, the fact that he owned up and related and communicated with the people shows his understanding of what is going on beyond Aso Rock. That was it was a defining moment for him that proves that he's in touch with the people that he's leading. I think it's something that he communicated absolutely well by making people understand that, listen, I'm there with you. I know what you're going through. I'm not going to be in denial of the fact that things are tough, And that's what leaders do. Leaders take responsibility for what happened and forge a solution, how they are going to solve that problem. You understand? And he did that and he communicated that very well. I like his body language, his humor, his tenacity, being able to stand before these very seasoned journalists that were interviewing him. And he kept the moment, he kept the momentum. So that's a good thing. There were some lows too that I expected otherwise. There's some examples that he made that I thought was not there.
His friend with 5 limos who now drive a smaller car.
You got that? Yeah, that's one thing that I thought was it was the lowest ebb of the interview, because he didn't really. He actually indicted himself to say that, look, some members of the community that were rich before have become poor. That's just what it means. And for someone who had 5 Rolls Royces, for him to have discarded them and then went for a lower car. I think that did not resonate with me. Rather, what I would have done is to use myself as an example. So, for instance, you say, well, look, I used to, I was earning XYZ from government. I have asked government to cut down my pay. I've challenged my ministers to cut down their pay. I have limited this, that, to ensure that we solve the issue of wastages, And of course, there were also places he was bullish by saying, well, I'm not going to cut down my government and all that, So those are some of the elements of that interview that, to me, he would have done differently. That story did not jail. It didn't go down well with intention that I perceive he wanted to communicate.
Yeah.
However, that's the human nature. We all have our downtimes,
all right.
And I think that's one of it. But I mean, overall, generally speaking, I think in terms of being able to capture the moment, in terms of being able to communicate what you want to do, I am very impressed with the fact that he understood his policies and he was able to communicate them. Right. I think whoever is advising the president should advise him to do this more.
More often, yeah. We had the first one in 18 months. Hopefully we'll get more in the coming months. I'm going to hear your thoughts very shortly, Dr. Mary Dotty, but let's take a short break and we'll be right back. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks for staying with us on the program. Dr. Jake Pele, Policy Development Analyst, is live with us from Abuja. And Dr. Oludare Maridoti, Convener, Social Rehabilitation, Grace and Support Initiative, is joining us from the U.S. Gentlemen, thank you for staying the course on the program. If you were here physically, I would have offered you some Christmas food and water. No turkey, though, because turkey is very expensive these days. Maybe fried fish would have done. All right, let us, Dr. Maridoti, let me hear your thoughts about Mr. President's media chat. He was quite assertive about the performance of his ministers and that he wasn't willing to drop the numbers. In fact, he used a very humorous example. If you want to entertain Nigerians, I think about 200 million of them, would you say 50 servers are too much? What do you make of that, amongst others, especially at the time where government is asking Nigerians to live within their means? Do you think we're getting the same vibe when it comes to their spending at this time?
Well, thank you very much. I will definitely love to, start my stuff from what Dr. Ekweli said. I think that I do agree with Dr. Ekweli when he said that the president should do this more often. I think I've been clamoring for this for over a year. That if you look at the president, he seems like someone who is very good when it comes to interacting with people. If you write him a speech, he might fumble the words or whatever, but when he's talking, he has the command of the facts and the thinking, and it can shape your thinking the way it is. So yes, a media chat or a town hall is still different and better from Dambala. So definitely the president should keep on doing these things. But when it comes to the issue of the example regarding the Rolls Royce, I will want to respectfully disagree with Dr. Ekweli because like I've always said that fuel is food for machine, and it is the rich men that have more of the machines. So when you subsidize fuel, aside the corruption and the smuggling across borders and all of that, once you subsidize fuel, you are subsidizing the lifestyle of the rich. So when Davido went abroad and was crying about the economy of Nigeria, that is because he is paying more. The Nigerian government has stopped subsidizing the fuel that he puts in his private jets that flies in from Abuja to United States. So when he gave that example, what he was saying is that the money that belongs to all of us, that we are all supposed to be using to build roads, hospitals, schools, that we're using to subsidize, fuel for your 5 Rolls Royce, we are no longer giving it to you. So you are rich, pay your fair share. Now, I understand that the subsidy is also affecting the poor people because they don't have a good amount of margin to exist on.
You don't think,
the
Dr.
Nigerian government
Maridoti,
needs that money?
let me butt in. You don't think it affects the poor more than the rich? in the real sense of it. Because when you consider the percentage of increase and how it bites into the pocket, so a rich man will be able probably to afford a liter of petrol at over 1,000 naira, you know, compared to someone who is just struggling to get by.
Nifemi, you are right. The impact is regressive. Someone who is struggling to get by is going to not. So it's like if I have 3 million naira and you have 3,000 naira, and we are both the government is taking 50% of that money. With your 1,500 naira, you may not be able to transport yourself back home. With my 1.5 million, I can still do whatever I want. So now, what is the difference? I have given 1.5 million. You have given 1,500. So the subsidy that the government was giving for fuel, for dollar, for electricity was going to the rich because they consume it more. If they want to give subsidy on makeup for people in TVC, I'm pretty sure you will protest because you don't use makeup compared to the ladies. So that is the essence of the removal of the subsidy. It's not just because Nigeria cannot, afford to sustain it. It's that Nigeria was either to subsidizing the lifestyle of the rich that have the mechano gens and all of that. You don't use the fuel that Dangote uses in a minute, in a year, on all these infrastructures and all these things. And all of them are being subsidized before now by Nigerian government. Look at dollar situation, over $400 billion to subsidize it. That is the essence of it. It's not just the fact that the subsidy is there to go. It's the fact that the subsidy is subsidizing the rich and depriving resources from the poor. So your schools are broke and they are not well staffed. Your roads are bad. Your hospitals don't have any equipment that can keep you alive. And your quality of life is terrible, is deplorable, because if Nigerian government is using money from the dollar that we don't make, that we have to earn. So it is all our crude oil, all our cocoa and everything that we are using to earn this dollar, and they are giving it to a few people for a less amount of price. So it's not like it is not affecting the poor, it is affecting the poor, but it is the rich that the Nigerian government was eager to giving the money to. So that is why I have been always in support of.
Hold that thought for a minute. Dr. Maridoti, let me take a call. Reverend Dominic has called in from Alimosho. Merry Christmas, Reverend.
Thank you, Femi. How are you?
Doing very well.
Can you hear me?
Clearly, please. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I wish my friend Dr. Pele and the next guest, your second guest, will hear me. You are changing the course of my discussion this morning. But let me first of all, sympathize with the people who died in this stampede. And Femi, I want to be frank, honestly, as a pastor, Dr. Pele knows that we do this always in the church. Nobody wants to give things to maybe people who need it and think that they will die along the line. It's an accident. So calling to prosecute those people or punish them doesn't resonate well with me. Those people that want to give that charity, we must find a soft landing, because what happened is just accident and it can happen anywhere. That is right way. And I think we have learned quickly. One of my junior brothers wants to do something in the village. So what we ask him to call the head of the clients and come and collect it and share with their people in a very little budget than putting people together. We are very fast. But Jamie, give me 1 second to talk about about Rolls Royce and the fuel subsidy. So please hear this. In law, they say it is better that 99 armed robbers escape than one innocent man to die. Tell me, what you ask question is this: how many percentage of Nigeria are using Rolls Royce? How many percentage of Nigeria are using Keke Marua? How many percentage of Nigeria are using bike? Now, if you look at that percentage, the fuel subsidy, sir, favors also the rich, not the poor. Because the rich already are few in number, whether you like it or not. How many Nigerians? 200 million people. Let's say 10 million are using Rolls Royce, and 190 million are suffering. That policy doesn't mean the best way we play. Let me say this with due respect to my president, Brother Ahmed Tinubu, which I have followed for many years. Honestly, he's strong, he's bold. But I wish he took the decision 6 months when he entered this office. His idea of that subsidy could be different. We know the pressure all over. The day they wrote that speech and he said the subsidy is gone. I wish he's sitting down like this. Now he have a full grip of government to take that decision. What is happening today will be different. That's the right way. But I want to greet everybody in Nigeria. We will overcome this. Nigeria is better than this. as long as God is in control and Nigerians are people who pray a lot. And we pray for this president that this policy may turn out good.
All right.
And I also pray that his descendants will follow his footsteps. That's my own condition this morning. Good morning,
Amen,
Nigerian.
Reverend.
Happy.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Gentlemen, I just want to confirm you could hear the Reverend.
No, you have to probably tell us what he said. We didn't
All
hear
right.
him.
I am really tired of recapping. I've been recapping since Monday. So my my people behind the camera have to do something about this. The guests have to be able to hear what the callers are saying. Well, Reverend is saying that perhaps Mr. President should have delayed the removal of subsidy by 6 months. He also said, contrary to Dr. Mari Dotti's position, that he feels that the poor people are feeling the pain of the full subsidy removal than the rich people do. And he's saying that, well, things will get better, hopefully. And he also was celebrating Mr. President. But quickly, Dr. Epele, if you can, Mr. President was quite clear that he has no regrets for removal of full subsidy. One of the journalists had also asked him if he felt it would have been easier if he staggered, that decision. The whole concept of subsidy is gone wasn't even in Mr. President's original speech. With the benefit of hindsight, do you think there's a way he could have managed the information of removal better, saying that the moment that speech was made, we started seeing fools at filling stations?
Yeah,
queues, rather.
Number one, I'm a proponent of fuel subsidy removal. I think it has not done this country any better. Whether you stagger the process of removal or you take the immediate action that the president took, it's something that we can also interrogate. However, it's important to note here that as far as I'm concerned, the strategic way of managing that communication is where I have problem. You notice that the moment the president announced that, at the time that he was reading that speech, he has become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And whatever he says carries weight, And so the management of the release of that information, even though his team was saying it was not in the speech, However, whether it was there or not, whatever the president says carries authority. And that's exactly what happened. Now, what happened then. My issue is what strategic communication mechanism did the team put in place to manage that narrative? How best were they able to take it and turn it around for the betterment of the country? They didn't do a good job. They did not do a good job. In the first place, the moment it was announced, there were all kinds of stories, and at the end of the day, we later found out that subsidy was not even removed as at the time. So it's strategic communication where a situation where there's something that the president wants to do, it is effectively communicated, just like he did during the media chat. The media chat was a fantastic communication methodology he adopted. How he carried himself, his body language was absolutely excellent. And I think whenever there is policy direction, policy formulation, policy implementation, I think he needs to communicate in the same way that he communicated during the media chat. Like Doc said, but town hall meetings are also another way of doing it. And I want to agree here with Dr. Dominic, with Pastor Dominic, that taking fuel subsidy does not really, taking fuel subsidy away does not really affect the rich. Are you telling me that the likes of Dangote, who is beginning to make fuel, feels any pain of cost of fuel? It doesn't. I can tell you that for free. With the kind of money he has, he can buy all the fuel he needs, you know. So it's not necessarily the person who had 5 Rolls Royces. He didn't pack it or sell it because he can't afford the fuel. If you can buy 1, 2, 3 Rolls Royces, come on. Yeah? You can afford.
You can probably just sell one to buy fuel.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is the usage of that example did not communicate the intention the president had in mind.
I get you clearly, Dr. Epele. We are running out of time now. Let me quickly get Dr. Maridoti's reaction to this. Mr. President said Nigeria is on a promising path of restoration and progress, with every indication pointing towards a bright future. Do you believe that? And how can more Nigerians come on board?
Yes, definitely. I believe Nigeria is on a path to restoration, especially because I will tell you this for free. The only reason I supported the president during the campaign was because I knew that he was going to remove this fuel subsidy because, like I said, the poor people, like Mr. Dominic Dakodi said, the poor people are the ones feeling the pain because the impact is regressive. But what was happening before was that the money that the Nigerian government was supposed to use to raise the people out of poverty by investing in their education, their roads, their hospitals, was being given to the rich who don't need it. So, you know, like the man with the Rolls Royce definitely can buy fuel, but he's not counting the cost of how much he's buying fuel and deciding to be a little bit more prudent in his spending because the Nigerian government is no longer giving a few of the rich people. Definitely, Dangote can buy as much fuel he wants, but when it was being subsidized, he was being subsidized more than what one poor man that has I better pass my neighbor generator is being subsidized for, because that one would probably use 10 liters when Dangote would have used 10,000. So that is why I'm saying, that is why, you know, having stopped this, that is why the government, the president can boast that he has not gone to NNPC or to Ways and Means to meet his financial obligation. Because what? Guess what? Not even the subsidy on fuel, the subsidy on dollar was even a whole lot more, like 4 times more, if you do the numbers based on what they have released. So by taking out those 2 subsidies, the government now has money to fulfill their financial obligations and not borrow for recurrent expenditure. Now they can start building roads, investing in schools, investing in hospitals, investing in things that will give us a better, a good, a decent quality of life. So definitely the people are the ones that are going to feel it most. That is why about 5 days after the president announced that removal of subsidy, what I first wrote in an article was that the president should take out protectionism on food, because you can anticipate that the price of food is bound to go up based on the cost of what's cost. So you remove all the undue import duties that is making food prices too expensive. You need to invest in public transportation so that maybe a man cannot drive his Rolls Royce, but if a poor man wants to get in a bus, he can still go anywhere for cheap. Whereby you can buy a bus ticket that is cheap and take you for 24 hours without even having to pay, so that the poor people can keep on growing. It will take about 2 decades, in my own opinion, for Nigeria to be where we will want Nigeria to be a country like Indonesia and maybe even China. But having stopped this undue burden, or this boulder on the shoulder of the Nigerian economy, having dropped it, Nigeria is now on a path of restoration. But what I would criticize the president's speech on was the manner with which he kind of praised himself. As a doctor, I will tell you that if I was supposed to do 2 surgeries for a patient and I did 1, and then I'm seeing the patient the next day and the patient is complaining of pain, I will not tell him to give me credit for not doing 2 surgeries and doing 1. I will tell him, well, thank God I am no longer having to do 2 surgeries. Indeed. So we can expect your pain to be minimal. Exactly. So I think that is one thing that I would criticize in terms of giving him.
Doctor, let's try to take one more call before we go. Mr. George has called in from Ikeja. Good morning. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Nifemi, and Merry Christmas to the 2 doctors before you. Nifemi, I'm still expecting your daughter's birthday cake, so please don't forget me. The one that celebrated birthday yesterday.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I have already commended Mr. President for his performance at that media chat. But I don't want to go back to that. when I noticed that during that media chat, Nifemi, the president asked one of the editors that were interviewing him that they should tell him one minister that is not performing. If any of Mr. President's aides is listening, I am saying here that the Minister of Power is not performing. Minister of Power, in his hands, the national grid has collapsed 12 times in a year. He is busy, trying to help discos. He's concerned about how much discos can make from the 5,000 maximum megawatt that a transmission system can take. He should tell us what, since he came to power, we saw the plan. A Minister of Works, a Minister of Aviation, a Minister of FCT, and many other ministers. We didn't see the roadmap of the Minister of Power. And now, if it discloses how to raise price is your concern, the weak transmission systems are there. Even if you generate, before the present administration, the GenCo had already generated close to 10,000 megawatts, but it cannot be transmitted because of the weak transmission equipment. This minister is not interested in that. He's interested in this band A, band B, band C, where they can easily make trillions of naira without giving the service. So I am telling Mr. President via this medium that the Minister of Power is not performing.
All right. Mr. George, we have completely run out of time. It's a big challenge to the Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu. Because I'm not a spokesperson, I would rather just say perhaps the Honorable Minister should come on the show so that we can have a conversation about what has happened in the outgoing year, especially with the 12-time shutdown we've experienced with the national grid. So, Mr. Adelabu, I hope you're watching, or someone who knows the minister is watching, this free invitation, so that you don't say somebody was accusing you on air and we didn't do anything. You can come over so we can have a conversation for an hour. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your contribution. That's our time on the show. Thank you for speaking from your heart, Dr. Jake Pele and Dr. Lu Dare Maridoti. Merry Christmas, gentlemen. And Merry Christmas, everyone. I'll see you again.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.